Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars-loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows, while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
And I'm Charles Rogers with the Vanilla Bean Frap. And today we are joined by another guest. Aeron, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Aeron. I'm here because, if I remember correctly, at one point, Charles and we were chatting and you interjected with Aeron. You're gay, right?
It's true.
Okay,
So that's the first check.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the first check.
Sure. Yeah. How is that relevant?
Well, we were talking, you were listening to the podcast. Aeron and I do a weekly get together. Yeah. And during it, we were talking about the podcast because it was very exciting.
Gotcha.
You know, I was talking about it. She was listening to it. And she has a lot of thoughts.
Always.
And at one point I went in my brain, I was like, wait, I'm like 99% sure Aeron is in the queer community somehow. We should bring her on the show to do her thoughts on the show.
Right. Of course. And we were like, it's like that Billy on the Street episode where he's like, name a woman. And Charles can't think of anybody because he's obviously a male and he's homosexual. So he's like, if someone goes, name a woman that you know, he's like, I don't know any women.
I was so surprised because in the moment I was like, our mutual friend, who is also female, is right here, but she's not into Star Wars. And
no, she watches about as much Star Wars as Bradley reads, which is to say she is vaguely aware of its existence, but has no interest in partaking of it.
That's fair.
It's really too bad for her because I've definitely forced her to watch some Star Wars things.
Show her Ewoks, The Battle for Endor. That'll change her mind. It's one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah, don't do that.
Absolutely do that.
No, that's terrible advice. Don't ever tell anybody to watch Ewoks movie.
Aeron, I can see Aeron in the Zoom call, and she's processing this. She's trying to figure out if I'm joking.
I know what the Ewoks are, and I remember the whole Battle of Endor thing, and I remember that by a different name as a film.
Actual piece of cinema.
Wait a second.
It's a separate Battle for Endor. There were multiple battles for Endor. No, we're talking about the TV made-for-TV movie, which aired on TV, which technically qualifies it to be talked about on this show.
When did that happen?
That was in the 90s. So,
okay.
So yeah.
In the 90s.
Tell you what. Get a few of our friend's cocktail, our excellent excellent cocktails. She's a mixologist, so she'll probably come up with something good.
Yeah.
And turn on these movies, and everything will make sense to you.
So as we were talking, I was just looking this up. I didn't realize that these Ewok movies were live action. I thought they were all cartoon because I guess there is a cartoon of the Ewoks, but I thought Battle of Endor was a cartoon. That's why I was like, wow, this is going to be stupid. Now it's Dark Crystal stupid.
Exactly. This is what I have been saying. It is one of the best movies ever made.
God.
It's like this duology of like Ewok movies that they did.
Excuse me, what did you just say about the Dark Crystal? Excuse me.
Oh, the Dark Crystal is great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what that looks. I'm looking at the stills from the movie, and it looks like almost identical to that movie. Like it looks like it's got the puppets and the Jim Henson, all that stuff.
Bradley famously has no taste. I've seen some of the people that he has been involved with, so I can tell you for a fact he doesn't have good opinions on anything.
I don't get the impression of taste.
Oh, dear. Aeron's on here throwing
shade already.
She's ready to go. She is ready to go.
She knows what's good.
Sorry. I listened to that, and the whole time, like, I know that it's not the particular stance, but the whole time I was listening to the last episode I think that you guys put out, and the whole time I'm like, why are we paying attention to this fella? Ming-Wat is right there. I didn't even notice that kid. Other than he's there, I guess.
Oh
Well,
man.
some of us are unfortunately cursed with just being gay. We don't get we have to make do with what we've got, and what we've got are men, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, don't recommend.
I've heard of these men before.
No, unfortunately, no.
So there's not really any Star Wars news that we were looking at. Nothing is really. We're expecting a little bit more in the coming weeks.
Yeah, because it's, as of this recording, we're almost at the end of March, so we're getting closer and closer to April, which is where hopefully more stuff is going to start appearing and being on Disney Plus too as well. So I think we'll have a little bit more to talk about as that gets a little closer. So
that's good, because that means we don't have to waste Aaron's valuable time, and we can dive straight into.
Yes, this week we're taking a look at The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 7, titled The Reckoning, where an old contact extends an invitation for the Mandalorian to make peace with his enemies. I'm going to ask our guest first, because that's just the polite thing to do. Aaron, what is one thing that you liked about this episode and one thing you did not?
I did prepare for this question.
Okay, good.
And I've decided my answer is the ending for both, because I liked it from a narrative standpoint. It's a good ending. It's a great ending. But I didn't like it personally. I didn't like it in my heart of hearts.
I got you.
It hurt. Like,
that's fair.
My logical, objective brain is like, yes, very well done. Very well done. We got a great entrance here. We've got just a poignant exit, pull that heartstring.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual emotional side of me, that's had the heartstring pulled, is like, no, no, I don't like. Although I'm sure there's things I'm forgetting that will come up that I won't like or
right.
Like.
I mean, you can like more than one thing. I'm just, I just try to give it.
You can like more than one thing.
So I've heard.
You had to pick like one and define your entire life, and Twitter by that one thing.
Personality and everything has to all be defined by one.
Yes, everything revolves around one thing.
Right.
That's it. It is interesting, as somebody who is savvy enough and is a creative. There's a disconnect. It's almost like I know I'm being emotionally manipulated, and I can appreciate how well I'm being emotionally manipulated, but I'm still being emotionally manipulated, and it still hurts.
I'm just here like Spock, like, I've been emotionally compromised.
That's fair. Because Charles, what did you like about this episode? What didn't you like?
I liked the production design. I loved the lava flats in general. I like the use of the color and the use of the way that they're designed. There's more playing with the light and shadow that they do in one of the scenes in the middle of the episode. I felt like a lot of this episode was set up for episode 8. I feel like for Mando and for Cara Dune, there wasn't much in the way of an arc from beginning to end. Like we talked about, even with episode 3, as part of a larger arc, Mando still had his own character arc within that episode. And I felt like really only Grief Karga got that in this episode. So I felt it was a little weaker on, it sacrificed a lot to lead into episode 8. As opposed to really standing alone as its own episode.
Right.
And that kind of, I want to say bothered me because it didn't. Overall, I liked the episode. If I had to pick one thing about it that I didn't like, that would be it. Is I feel like they could have done more with the other characters who weren't with Grief Karga having to go through kind of arcs.
Yeah, so I agree with you, because I think that this episode was technically designed to be essentially part 1 of the series finale, and then part 2 is the climax of the whole entire season, right? So Yeah, I mean, it wasn't going to be the greatest episode in terms of like a complete storyline because it's really hard to do a complete storyline if you do a part one and a part two, if you're designing it that way, at least. But if you're, I mean, to be fair though, if you're a good storyteller, you know, every episode can be self contained regardless of if it's a part one and a part two. So maybe it just wasn't the strongest in that term. But like you said, with the set design and everything, so little fun fact: this was also recorded concurrently with, or this was filmed concurrently with episode 1 and episode 3. So they kind of went episode 1, episode 3, and then they went 7, 8. Because they're all on the same planet, they're all with the same actors, they're all, you know, it was just easier for production that way. So
they're with the same set, almost
Right.
like competent producers made this.
I mean, you know, someone's trying to save money at Disney.
Gee, Disney saving money can't actually wrap my head around. Actually, genuinely, that sentence makes my brain hurt.
That sounds fake.
That doesn't sound real.
No.
It's not a thing.
Nah, that don't check out.
What about you, Bradley? One thing you liked and one thing you didn't.
So one thing I liked was Butler IG-11. I love that he's back. You know, I felt like he was gone too soon. Glad that he's back. So I just, for character purposes, I like that fact that they brought him back. Dislike Quill dying. I just didn't feel like it was a deserved death. Like it was just kind of like he was only in the one episode, and then they brought him back for this episode, and then it was just kind of like, okay, let's kill him because we don't really know how he's going to fit in with the rest of Mando's progression as a character. So let's just fucking kill him. Like that's just how I felt about it. But we'll get more into it once we get to that scene. But
sorry, I know I'm gonna talk over you, and I hate that. I hate that in audio. But I think you just verbalized the thing that that I was trying to put my finger on. What did he do? He just got here.
Right.
He just got here. I already love him. And how dare you? Like,
yeah, but like I said, we'll get more into it once we get to that scene. But I didn't like it. Okay, so let's start with the beginning of the episode. So we come in on the Razor Crest in space. Mando gets a phone call from Grief Karga, and he gives him a pretty sweet deal.
Mando, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Help me, Mando. You're my only hope. That's the only thing I could think about when I was watching that scene. I was surprised it's not like, help me, Mando. You're my only hope. It's such a reference-heavy show.
I know.
I mean, reference heavy, or this is just how phone calls work in this universe?
That's true. When does a reference become just something that's a part of the universe? We've talked about this before.
We have.
Because
this is not a reference.
Yeah.
There will be many other references in this episode, but this is not actually one of them, but it's also all I could think about when I watched the scene.
During that portion, all I could think was, are these transmissions live? Or no, they can't. This is recorded, so
it has to be, yeah.
Is this a voicemail? What's the?
I guess it's kind of like a delayed voicemail if you think about it. Like, have you ever seen Interstellar?
I did not see Interstellar. No. Sorry.
Okay, so in the movie, not to go too deep into this movie because it's 4 hours or like 3+ hours or something. Basically, what happens is on Earth, someone sends like a Skype recorded message or something, like a video call to them on the spaceship that leaves Earth, but they don't get it for like due to like some kind of dumb time thing. They don't get it for like 10 years after they sent it. So she sends the video message and then he gets it. Like for him, it's like only been, like a few months. But for her on Earth or whatever, it's been like years since he sent the message. And so it's kind of like one of those situations. Like it's like a delayed thing. But I guess here it's not as delayed as 10 years. It's just like a weekend.
This could have been an email.
I think this might be this universe's equivalent to an email. Like
it could very well be.
I don't know enough about how radio communications work to make a proper comparison, but this is how like communications worked for a long time. Like, for example, a fax machine was invented before the telephone.
Right.
The whole, you send a transmission and it gets there at some point in time. It's carrier pigeons.
Yeah, it's weird.
You have to wait for the thing to get to the other place. It's all data. It's just physics.
The other reason I wanted Aeron on the show, in addition to the reason, the fact that she has lots of thoughts on The Mandalorian, was Aeron is also a historian. And so Aeron knows these fun things and has that point of reference.
I am paying off some money to a certain state university who gave me access for 4 years to so many great primary resources. I majored in American history and psychology. So
you made better choices than me and Bradley did.
Yeah, I was gonna say I chose entertainment business, so
I chose writing. I'm a screenwriting major.
Yeah, I guess that's a little worse than
just
pure entertainment business, because
at least your major, Bradley, like you're employed in your major.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
You don't get employed as a historian or a psychological professional until you do grad school. So
yeah.
I personally feel like I used my psych degree every day.
You do deal with like actual human people in person. We as you know, we record these episodes using the Zoom video calls, and the minute I said you deal with people, Aeron's whole body like seized up and she took a deep inhale.
It's too bad this isn't a visual medium, simply because I'm pretty sure, like, the whole time we were getting ready for this episode, I was like, this is going to be like, what, a couple hours of Charles being like, and Aeron's face just did a thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because her face does very funny things.
You know what? Unfortunately, you don't have a Mando helmet on, because then nobody would ever know what your expressions are. Like, you could always just like sit there and just be like, eye roll, but nobody would ever know because you have that Mando helmet on. So you'd be covering your face.
Have you considered the word of our Lord and Savior, Mandalore?
This is the way.
This is the way. Exactly.
Speaking of the Mandalore and Mandalorians, I have a question about this sequence because it raised it for me.
Yeah.
And that is, was Grief Karga the one, because he talks like he wasn't the one sending the bounty hunters after Mando and
right.
Child, but like he obviously was. So is he trying to play that off in this scene?
So I do know a bit about like the history of bounty hunting. So bounty hunting, as we know it today, the sort of a bail bondsman recovering, like someone who's skipped out on their sentence, essentially. Coordinating that, the sort of like running an organization that gets bounty hunters together and connects it's all connecting the bounty hunter with the client who wants the skip brought in. That's not the word.
No, that's good enough.
The asset.
And it started, as we know it today, out in San Francisco back in the Wild West. And it started out of a bar, essentially. Like it started out like Lloyd's of London, basically connecting the people who want the thing done with the freelancers who will do that for you. Right. And it was deeply corrupt. And watching this, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the same thing. He's just the coordinator.
Right. No, I definitely felt that too. I didn't think he had any ill will towards Mando or anything like that. He's just the guy that you go to finance, or like the guy you go to get the people to go get him. So I think the client is the one that was sending the bounty hunters. Grief Karga is just the one coordinating it. He's just going, oh yeah, I got guy A, guy B, guy C, and they'll all go get them for you. But you have to hire them. Like, I can't hire them. I just get a cut.
I mean, Mando did shoot him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he might be
I'm sure he's probably a little salty about getting shot. I did not know. That is interesting. I didn't know that was an actual thing. That bounty hunter coordinators were an actual thing. I knew bounty hunters existed.
Yeah, they're just not as interesting as the ones in Star Wars, obviously.
By the way, I think it's us in the Philippines. That's the only two places in the world where having a bail set for you, and then having a bail bondsman or a bounty hunter. We're the only two countries that do it. It's considered kind of unethical elsewhere. And it evolved out of, all right, so sometimes people say, can you put up the money for my bail? And then they skip town because...
Right. Once the bail's put up, yeah. It's like, who cares?
You would. And so you need someone who's willing to put up the money. And you better stay in town or I will send someone after you. And so it's separate from it's separate from the legal system, but of course they worked coordinated with the legal system in that beautiful way that only America can really do, where
you're incestuous,
but you're contracted with the government,
right? A very incestuous
you have contractors.
I love that.
I do want to shout out the Baby Yoda puppet work for him sleeping.
He's so cute watching that.
I mean, he's sleeping.
He's snoozing the same way when you fall asleep on a long car ride, and Mando's just kind of checking back there, like, "He doing okay?
He's like, okay, he's good."
It's like, aw, road trip feelings.
I did get that too. I did get that little vibe of like he's tired after this long flight because they've just been flying all over the place.
Yeah, reminded me of being like dragged between airplane connections as a kid, being carried around by my parents. Like, okay, and it's the middle of the night, we got to catch the red eye. And hey, Aaron, look, we're in Vegas. You're asleep. Okay, let's go.
So yeah, we get the title sequence of The Reckoning. Charles, what does reckoning mean? What do you think it means in this episode?
Reckoning is when you have to deal with something that you don't want to deal with. And it's coming home to eat crow, essentially, and deal with something that has previously happened or something you have previously done. So in the context of this episode, we are dealing with the events of the first 3 episodes. And finally, after spending 3 episodes running, we are coming back now to attempt to deal with this once and for all.
Yeah, because he clearly wants to do something, because he's like, I'm just going to go back and see every other person I ever known, ever met, and I'm just going to go visit all of them at once. Like,
Aaron, you sounded like you had something you wanted to add to the reckoning.
Well, I reckon it probably means...
Oh.
And that was all I had. That was my thought.
A literal, like, Western reference. You're like...
I reckon.
Means I reckon.
It is a very Western title. You know, The Reckoning.
I actually see that's actually not a bad point to make, that it just could just be a reference to the Western slang.
That's just how some people talk.
I mean, I reckon.
In this moment, I'm acutely aware of my family is from like the border states area. I picked up on their way of speaking.
So we head back to episode 4 planet, which I could just call the shrimp planet.
It has a name. They mentioned the name in the episode. I started to write it down and went,
I never remember.
No, it doesn't really matter.
I know.
It begins with an S.
It's not Skaro. That's the planet from Doctor Who.
Scurvy. I don't know. I really don't know. It's like Sabak. I don't know.
Solo, a Star Wars story.
Right. Solo, a Star Wars.
So they fly to Solo, a Star Wars story.
Right. Swamp planet, or we could just call it Earth because it's green and blue. So they are, actually, well, I'll wait till we get to the
They
next.
fly to Washington State.
They fly to Washington State. I was going to make a joke because the second planet he
Aaron's
goes to is
going,
Arizona. So,
because she actually lives in the Washington State area.
do they have
Yeah,
shrimp
the
krill
area
farms?
that's in it.
Do they have
The area
krill
that's-
farming?
No.
Do they have blue alcohol?
Honestly, watching it, no, we have neither of those things. Now, crayfish and crawdads, you'll find that in like
New Orleans.
South.
So there we go. He flew to New Orleans. Okay, that's decided.
Okay.
So he
More
flew to
like
New Orleans.
the kind of
By the
swampy
way-
areas up in like along the Mississippi and such.
Right.
By the way, if you have not had like proper New Orleans seafood, you absolutely need to have it. It is phenomenal. That is my plug for the day. New Orleans. Pretty
No.
all right, actually.
Well, I don't know if they have this in New Orleans, but we see Cara Dune beating up Darth Maul's cousin in an underground fighting ring.
Underground in big quotation marks.
Right. Some big MMA like public fight.
It's the same bar from episode 4.
Right, which is weird.
That's
Yeah,
just bars in the country. It's just the entertainment.
So does the bar have this tether like randomly lying around?
Or did like Darth Maul's cousin bring it like
Yeah.
with him? He was like, I'm gonna fight somebody today. And so he brought like his thing.
Yeah, I just assumed that this is just kind of like the local pastime, you know?
Yeah. There's
Like-
not much to do.
Yeah, there's only so much to do. I mean,
Right. It's a
the
backwater.
farther out in the middle of nowhere you get, like, especially, like, not now, because people have internet now, but just all right, anybody want to see me and him fight?
Right. That's kind of what it is.
Well, here's the thing, because I noted this too as being a little bit confusing, because in episode 4, remember, they walk into the bar and Cara Dune is there. And
Mhm.
Mando's like, oh, planet's taken. Whole planet's taken.
Right.
Can't go anywhere else. Whole planet. And now there's at least more than one merc in the bar
Right.
that's clearly the person that she is fighting. And some of the others look like they could be the seedy underworld type. So have they lifted the restrictions on seedy underworld types coming to this planet now?
I didn't look at those folks and think Merc. I just thought this is just some of the local dudes who like to fight sometimes.
Yeah, how racist of you, Charles, to assume that a
I'm sorry,
Dobrak and
I assumed that the Zabrak was
Right.
a mercenary. That may have been on me to make that unfair assumption about.
you don't know. He could be a lawyer. He just likes to fight. Like, you know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
I have known some lawyers who get into some interesting stuff on their
Mhm.
off hours.
He could be a
It's true.
dentist. You don't know him. You don't know his life.
I mean,
Oh,
it's an agrarian planet, so I assume they have loads of folks that are there to just do physical labor. And
Right. Yeah, he could be a laborer. Like, who
he looks
knows?
strong.
Hmm. He clearly was.
Clearly not strong enough to win against Cara Dune, though.
Mhm.
Speaking of Cara Dune, I am accustomed to being disappointed by attractive men. But
We all
good
are.
lord, the experience is tenfold more frustrating when the person in question is a woman, and rewatching this was a lot.
Interesting.
My first impression back in whenever this was first released, watching this was
Mhm.
just
Like,
Holy
"Whew, are we
shit.
on Tatooine? It's a little hot in here.
holy shit. Cara Dune would absolutely wreck me, and my body is ready for it.
I love that.
This was no different, except I also feel just like even more upset with the whole thing. Like, I feel personally attacked by all of this, and
Yeah.
just stab me in the throat.
I noted one shot with her biceps, and I went, "Ooh, this is probably uncomfortable for people who find her attractive to watch
Right.
now."
The stab me in the throat thought that came as she won the fight. I'm just like, all right, okay, all right, all right.
It's like she can beat me up anytime.
I am 5'1", and so that's just a given. Like, just throw me over your shoulder and
Hey, she's smaller than cousin Maul, so she beats him up. So you never know. Size matters not.
Oh, I just know I would not win most fights anyway. So, but God, just all of that is just like, okay.
Wait, how tall are you?
5'1".
So she's 5'8" in real life.
Yeah, that seems about right.
So that sounds good. And the Dobrak was probably what, like 6'4"?
6'4", 6'5". I have a cousin who's 6'6". It's actually terrifyingly tall.
Yeah. I feel like most of that race of, and not to be racist like you against aliens, but I feel like most of the Darth Maul race has to be pretty big. Just because it's like a very, kind of like looking, it's just a very menacing looking alien. So I feel like they all be pretty big. Yeah.
I believe they are called the Zabrak in Legends. I believe they are just the Knight brothers in canon. But I will of course keep referring to them as the Zabrak just because that's pre-programmed into my brain and I can't make it stop. Oh God, make it stop. The pain, it hurts so much to know all this stuff. Please, dear God, put me out of my misery.
I mean, it says that Zabraks are canon, so I don't know why that would be different.
Oh, good. That's fine. I can keep doing it then.
Yeah, I think the whole Darth Maul thing, the brothers and the Night Sisters, all that stuff, that's a separate group of them. They're the same species, but it's just like they're on a different planet or something.
Oh. I did ever since you pointed out in episode 4, Bradley, Baby Yoda walking along behind him, I did notice Baby Yoda walking along behind him this time.
Yep. I love that.
Baby Yoda moves very quickly for being so bitty. And can confirm I walk very, very fast just to keep up with people. But he's going so slow until you look away.
I mean, yeah, he's a little nugget. Like, he does walk like a little, little goob. But it's funny because I told you, like, it probably takes Mando like an hour to walk with him. Like, why let him walk? Just pick him up. Like, it's like letting like your Chihuahua follow you, but like you're walking at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and the thing's like 10 feet behind you, and you're like, hurry up, little legs. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm always
Bradley
like,
would
jogging.
Know. Because his dog is approximately like this tiny little, well, his roommate's dog is this tiny little thing. I trust his expertise on this. I have a cat, and that little asshole is not going to follow me anywhere.
Right.
He's just going to sit on my bed that he thinks is his bed and wait for his food that I pay for, and only exercises at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm trying to sleep.
I mean, they are nocturnal.
I'm not.
I wanted to get back to Kara because she says something that you mentioned in the 4th episode, I think. We talked about how I talked about how in that episode I didn't like Kara's character because I felt like they leaned too heavily in the rebel shock trooper kind of storyline. But in this episode, she talks more about the fact that the reason why she doesn't want to go with Mando is because she'd be arrested like instantly because of the mercenary work that she's been doing since she has been a rebel shock trooper. And I was like, why didn't they talk more about this stuff before? I would have been like more okay with the fact that she was, because she was a mercenary, but they like kind of glossed over the fact that she was a mercenary in that episode. And now they kind of like brought it up a little bit more.
Okay, I have thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Because I heard that episode. I guess my question is, why did you not like that she was a shock trooper?
So I think what I was trying to say in that episode was that I just didn't like how they were leaning so heavily into like just the shock trooper storyline, I guess it just wasn't as interesting to me and if she had been like what she said she was, which was a mercenary or a bounty hunter, because I was comparing it to the Ming Na Wen character, who is a female bounty hunter. I feel like that's such a more interesting story than what they were, I guess, trying to do with Kara in the beginning, which was like, oh, I was with the Republic, but now I don't know what to do with myself because the war's over, kind of thing. And
So for Cara Dune, it made perfect sense to me that she would not be a bounty hunter. I end up working with a lot of people who are ex-military, and the former military turned mercenary thing, that's so common. Like tons of people get work after discharge doing private sector security or just mercenary work. Look at Blackwater. But no, it makes perfect sense to me that this is a character who, like, we lean into I was a shock trooper. I think the story is it's leaned into because the reason a character like that would have joined up in the first place. I mean, she's there to do one thing and one thing only. It's kill Imperials. And then when she's out, the reason she's no longer, once your war is over, that's when they start kind of getting a little antsy about war crimes and things and start prosecuting for that sort of shit. And she's not there to build the New Republic. She joined to kill Imperials. And we know this because
it comes up.
It comes up, and that's what makes her go, oh, I get to kill Imperials? I'm in. And no, she wouldn't be able to be a bounty hunter in the way that Mando is, because she wouldn't be able to take a job from the client.
Right. Well, yeah, she's not a part of the guild either, so it's not like she can just, join and be like, all right, I'm good to go. Like,
it's also poignant to me, and I mentioned this in episode 4, the idea of somebody who did join up for the purpose of fighting. Mm-hmm. And once the fighting is over, like, what do you do if you're there for that reason? It's all well and good if you're there to restore the Republic, right, and you're there for political reasons or you're there for ideological reasons. Not everybody is going to be there for that reason. Some people are going to be there because fuck the Empire.
Right.
Yeah. And the sort of training that she would have ended up doing, like, she's obviously like some kind of former special forces,
right,
did infiltrative work and such like that, which of course she would have become a mercenary.
Right.
Not mercenaries work as a group. They're not individual freelancers or contractors the way a bounty hunter would be. And I think that from the onset saying, yeah, I did X, Y, and Z. And of course the New Republic would not be on great terms with her because she probably skipped out to do more killing of Imperials after it was clear that they were like, all right, so we'd like you to do some riot control stuff. Mm-hmm. Wait, I don't get to kill anybody? Specifically, right. Imperials? I'm out, thanks.
I actually I don't know if I noted this. Bradley may not know this because Bradley doesn't know how to read. But Mon Mothma actually demilitarized the New Republic. Mm. So one of the things that the New Republic did was once the war was over, they scaled back their forces massively to being essentially peacekeeping forces. Right. And that's part of how the First Order was able to come in. And this is an underlying plot in Star Wars Resistance, is that the First Order is able to come in to areas of the galaxy that the New Republic can't really patrol because Mon Mothma demilitarized them so much. They don't have the forces to be able to come in and do that and say, well, we can protect you from pirates and marauders and raiders, and all you have to do is agree to let the First Order in and let us station a garrison. That's how they get these places. If you watch Resistance, the first season from beginning to end, and you get to see, like, marathon it and see what their whole plan is for taking over the Colossus, it's really actually very insidious what they're doing, to where they're trying to set up a situation where people are willing to give up their freedom actively because the alternative is security and safety. It's one of those things that underpins Star Wars is not political in the slightest, and has nothing to say about politics at all.
Anything, not based on anything that might have happened in real life.
Of course not.
Especially not, in reference to any particular global conflicts. You might call them a world war.
Nope.
Maybe that's a fun nickname you could use.
Yeah, if it were drawing from such things, which, obviously it does not draw from real history or politics.
But this is space wizards. It's not real life. It's
magic space wizards.
Two different things.
Whatever.
She agrees because, yay, killing. And they head out.
Imperials.
Fuck the Empire.
Right.
Specifically Imperials. She hears he's Imperial. I'm in.
Right. Yeah, she's like, all right, let's go. So they hop a ride. They go into outer space, and they kind of keep talking about, that kind of stuff, until while they're in space, Baby Yoda decides to fly the ship.
Yeah, he does.
Correctly.
Monkey see, monkey do. This whole episode is a lot of kind of references to just the nature of parenting. Mm-hmm. And I think I made a note that, is he going to be okay in there?
Yeah, no, that's what she says. She literally says, can we leave him alone?
And obviously he's not.
Right.
He's not okay in there.
Because I think it's in the last episode, was the prisoner episode. It was very similar situation where, Mando is just not, like, he's not a father. Like, he doesn't know how to take care of children. And so one of the things he does is just kind of, like, lock up his kid, like, in his cage, when he's not dealing with him. And
he's an 80s parent.
Right. So he's like, I'm going to just leave the kid alone, and he's fine because he's 50 years old. He can take care of himself. So I guess that's his thought process.
Mando is daddy, but he's not a very good dad.
No, he's not. I mean, when has he been called upon to do dad stuff other than right now?
Now. This is the moment.
I think his interactions with children would have been maybe with, like, children at the covert. And he's not doing, like, the round-the-clock childcare. He doesn't know what they're supposed to do.
Who takes care of the kids at the covert?
Someone, I'm sure, takes care of the kids at the covert.
Does anyone?
I'm sure it's someone's job to indoctrinate the children.
Yeah, I guess.
In their weird cult ways.
Yep.
Well, they come to the conclusion, I was going to say, that they need a babysitter.
Yes.
Because
Cara Dune knows just enough about what's going on to go,
yeah.
Like, I appreciate that as the female character, she's not there to do the babysitting. Love that so much, because I have been handed so many small children in my life. It's, hey, could you watch them for a moment?
Right. And thankfully she's not given the opportunity. He's just like, no, we're going to find somebody else. And he's like, I know exactly where to go.
I talked before about preconceived notions in our world versus the Star Wars universe. And fortunately, it does not seem to be a thing in the Star Wars universe that, we're going to hand the kid off to the one lady that happens to be around.
Right.
They go,
there's a de facto kind of thing that it does kind of eke out that way. Is it in episode 5 with Amy Sedaris' character? But that's kind of accidental.
Accidental.
Right, accidental babysitting. Yeah.
Look at the baby.
It's just not really maternal at first. It's more, I'm going to take care of the baby and then charge Mando more for it.
It's more of a smart thing. She's not necessarily doing it out of a loving nature kind of thing. She's doing it out of I can make a quick buck this way, So it's kind of more insidious in that way, but
I'm not saying I haven't done something like that before in my life.
I was gonna say, now that you brought Amy Sedaris up, my question is, why does he go to Arizona to talk to Quill instead of going to Tatooine and giving the baby to Amy Sedaris? Like, why doesn't he get her?
Because she's going to charge him.
Because she sent him an invoice.
Yep. He's going to get the baby back, and then he's also going to get a 3-page invoice.
No, she'd happily do it, but...
Right, but she'll charge. Whereas Quill obviously does think out of the goodness of his heart.
Amy Sedaris, she's a pretty high-billed, like, actress. Like, she's been around doing stuff for a while, so maybe they could only get her for so much.
That's true. It could be a weird thing, because the Quill character is actually played by funny enough, is actually played by a woman,
you don't say.
Voiced by a man, so you kind of have like a duality there, but it's just a stunt person essentially, so they can kind of get her to do whatever, and they do get her to do multiple roles throughout the series as we continue, but because after this episode, she no longer plays the Quill character, but she does play a different character in the second season, which once we get there, we'll mention it. But so she has like a starring role in the second season as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's interesting because also, fun fact, that same character shows up in the first season in the background. There's an Easter egg for you to go look for.
I know who you're talking about, but we're not going to delve into that.
Right, we can't go into it too much. But we'll get to it later. So we, like I said, we fly to Arizona to talk to Quill. And once we get to the cow farm, they discuss with Quill something very interesting about the child.
It's such a fucking beautiful shot outside of his place where the sun's setting in the background. Like, it gave me like Revenge of the Sith dropping Luke off at Owen and Beru's vibe. Like, for some reason that shot just stuck out to me as being like this gorgeous shot.
Interesting.
It's a beautiful, the way it's filmed rather. The planet is just very beautiful to look at, I think. Like you said about the lava flats, it's just such a neat little geological touch to creating this planet and this setting. It's so cool to look at that, and with the sun setting, it's neat. It's just neat.
I wanted to bring up their conversation because Quill says something very interesting about the child. He goes, well, he hasn't grown very much since I last saw him, which, I mean, timeline-wise, this can't be more than a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, he like they're discussing whether or not he might be a strand cast,
right? Which is the first mention of that in all of Star Wars.
Which I have it written down here. Like, I was confused what that was. I didn't know if that was like a clone or.
I think they're referring to DNA strands.
A strand cast. Thankfully, we record these episodes in front of the computer, and I have a dual monitor now, so I could actually look up. A strand cast, per Wikipedia, the only valid information source, is a bioengineered organism. So it's not a clone per se.
Gotcha.
It's a genetically modified organism
that is grown in a vat. So the example that they use as the best example of what a strand cast actually is Snoke.
Oh my gosh, spoiler alert.
Snoke is a strand cast. So he is...
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm going to casually spoil this for you. All of your Snoke theories were wrong. He's grown in a vat. He's a test tube baby.
Gotcha.
All I'm hearing from this is that Baby Yoda is a GMO.
He is not a GMO.
He's a chicken nugget.
They think he might be a GMO, but he is not a GMO.
Yeah, because Quill says he's too ugly to be artificial.
Genetic modification, like, dogs evolved.
Right.
We've just modified them a wee bit.
That's a good explanation because it's like kind of like the difference between a Great Dane and a Chihuahua. The DNA is for the most part the exact same, just
Same species.
yeah, right. So it's just minus a few tiny little modifications which we have outbred over time. So you kind of like change the shape of them. I mean, you could say the same thing for that's probably why he thinks that Baby Yoda is the way it is because it's like he's so little and he's basically a Chihuahua. So like what did the what did the wolf version of Yoda look like versus the Chihuahua version?
Yeah, so they basically decide that he's not one of these strand casts, that he wasn't grown in a vat, that we don't know what he is or where he's from, but he was probably not grown in a vial like our buddy Snoke. Again, spoiler for... Sorry, Kyle, if you're listening to this. We did just spoil Rise of Skywalker for you. It turns out Snoke was grown in like a test tube.
Do you think that they brought this up because people were starting to be like, oh, he's a clone of Yoda. He's a clone of Yoda. And so they were just trying to be like, no, he's just his own thing. Don't worry about it. Like,
no, because they filmed it all like together, so they wouldn't have had time to address it. I think it's one of those things like something else that comes up later in the episode.
Oh, okay.
I think it was something because this was filmed concurrently with developed concurrently with Rise of Skywalker. It's something that they probably knew from the Rise of Skywalker script and production was a thing they were introducing and went, okay. Oh, that's cool. We kind of want to reference that in our show. The idea of the growing the organisms from scratch like they do with Snoke, and apparently Rey's father is also technically a strand cast. He's a modified clone.
Oh, I didn't get that from the movie.
Yeah, it's not in the movie.
It was in some stupid Legends side comic or something.
It was in the book. The novelization of the movie was where they first mentioned that.
That does expand the movies a little bit.
Palpatine does not fuck.
Okay, well, I disagree. I disagree.
I also disagree.
So glad you cleared that up. Thank you.
But they apparently felt the need to mention that Sheev does not fuck.
No, he does. He has sex. I know it.
Now, I choose to believe that Sheev fucks.
Yes.
Because that is just a thing that I have decided to accept in my life. And I'm not going to pry that out of my brain.
Fucks but does not produce progeny, perhaps. Not into that sort of...
Ooh, right. Maybe we can have it both ways.
Well, I guess canonically then, like, his son fucks, though, because obviously...
Well, yeah.
Obviously we have a natural-born child, so...
His son is the Sheev that fucks.
Right, exactly. There you go.
It skips a generation sometimes.
Yeah, it skips a generation.
Star Wars!
Right.
It makes sense.
Wait, if it skips a generation, that means Rey does not fuck.
I mean, she is a Jedi.
Ah, but didn't you just tell me recently that according to some dumb book that you just read that Jedi are allowed to fuck?
Yes. According to Light of the Jedi, which I just finished, which is a fucking amazing book. And then it is addressed in more detail in Into the Dark, which is the young adult tie-in for the High Republic. They explicitly state that Jedi are allowed to fuck. They're just not allowed to develop feelings, which shocked me. One, that they explicitly address that in media. And two, that means every gay man in Atlanta is technically qualified to be a Jedi.
Yeah, sounds about right. I was gonna say we got to move on because we're not even halfway through this thing. Sorry. Their conversation gets interrupted because, oh my gosh, IG-11 is back and he brought us tea.
Yep.
I knew they hired Taika Waititi for more than just one episode.
So yeah, I love that he's still on the show.
There's more child rearing themes here. He's retrained and genetic themes here. He's retrained a wolf into a labradoodle, and that's great.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Wonderful. Yeah, he went from killer to caretaker.
They domesticated the IG unit.
Yeah, I said my note. I wrote down Quill brought him back to life with love.
I had it noted as a nice little physical therapy
Oh yeah,
montage.
that's true.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love the way that Quill brings it up as like, yeah, you left a mess and there was all this stuff behind. I had to pick up your mess
Hmm.
and this was left behind. And you know what? It's useful, waste not, want not. This was an honest salvage.
Yeah,
According to the Charter of the New Republic,
he had to like
this
defend
shit is
his
mine
choice.
now.
Yeah, he's like
he's
I did
arguing
not
it
do
in
anything.
court.
I love that because
Yeah.
he also brings up a very interesting thing in the universe now. So now that means that based on this premise that this droid was reprogrammed to be a babysitter, basically, he even said, he's like, I can program him to be a caretaker. I can program him to do whatever I want. So that means that theoretically, any droid in the whole entire universe can be any other type of droid. So, like, for example, BB-8 can be programmed to be an assassin droid, theoretically.
The way I interpreted that was because we saw how absolutely busted this droid was.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of, like, you know, if you throw a computer out the window and the chassis is still in shape, you can just chuck in a SSD and a graphics card and sound card and everything and build it from the inside out to be a whole new thing.
Right.
It just looks the same on the outside. And with it, the droid being it's no longer a battle droid. It doesn't have that wiring anymore. But butlering and child rearing, that's something. It's like adding a new program onto the said computer. Like,
right.
Okay, it looks like a Mac. It's not a Mac anymore. It's Windows under the
hood.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I can indeed. I can put games on it if you need me to.
Right.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Big Hero 6. It reminded me of when he puts the karate chip in Baymax to make Baymax into a fighter robot.
Right.
Instead of just a caretaker robot.
Yeah, he kind of co-ops it.
I actually remember when the poster for Rise of Skywalker came out, and on one of the posters, C-3PO was wearing Chewbacca's bandolier and holding the bowcaster and had like Rey's staff or something, or a staff or something on his back. And we were like, oh man, C-3PO is about to go ham. This thing is about to finally snap and just start blasting stormtroopers.
Right.
And that did not happen. He just carries it at one point in the movie. Yeah. I was a little sad.
Well, not to go into too much detail, but Disney's not the best when it comes to marketing their new Star Wars movies as something that may happen in the movie and then doesn't really come to fruition later on.
Yeah. Disney's marketing team needs to go home and rethink their life.
Mm-hmm.
That is my take on that.
It was in the marketing materials, so you think that's going to be in the film? Oh, honey, no.
Right.
Oh. Clearly, you've never seen a J.J. Abrams mystery box joint before.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's very notorious for that. So I like how Quill's like conditions that he's coming on this trip with Mando, other than the fact that he's got his new babysitter robot. He goes, the cows are coming with me.
That made perfect sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
Y'all ever been on a farm that has livestock?
No.
Oh, no.
Oh, I mean, for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. My cousin owns a farm with her husband in Florida, but I've never been.
Okay, so my granddad had cattle. So if you just leave the cattle, especially in the setting that Quill seems to be on, that's how your cattle get stolen.
Yeah, I see.
Also, someone's got to feed them, and they're going to be a snack for some kind of whatever kind of monster roams around that planet, like
Mudhorns.
There we go. I don't.
Maybe a mudhorn snack.
Maybe they eat blurgs, but yeah, that's how it's just setting up a big old sign that says cow wrestlers, blurg wrestlers, come and get it. Like the blurg, come with me. This is how I protect my.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, it's kind of like his. Not. I mean, I keep saying cows, but it's basically they're like his cats. Like they're like he's got to take them with. He's got to take his puppies with him. Otherwise they'll go hungry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you have to feed cows too.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that's fair.
Have been present during the feeding of cows. So can't confirm. You got to do it.
Well, I want to point out two small things that I noticed in this sequence.
What did you notice?
I noticed a little Easter egg. There's a lot of like tiny little references in this episode, or references to other things that are kind of in the background. Mm-hmm. And one of the ones I noticed is when Kuil is putting the IG unit back together, the part of the shielding of his workshop is a TIE fighter, not the window in the front, but the window frame. So the glasses or the plexiglass has been removed, but he's using the frame as part of this in the background. That was one thing I noticed. I also want to shout out Mando's body language when he goes through the whole scene with Kuil, where he's trying to convince him to go. Super impressive acting, because you can feel when he gets frustrated, when he gets resigned, just by the way that the whoever is inside the armor for that particular scene.
Mm-hmm.
How they move.
I don't know if it's him or not, because like I said, that whole one episode, he wasn't even in the suit, so who knows who's in the suit at that point. But
you never know.
I imagine a stunt actor would also just be fantastic at physical acting, because that's their whole job. I mean, it's to be
right.
Like, and you can tell how good they are in this role.
So we're back on the ship, and Kara and Mando are just casually having an arm wrestling competition, as one does when they're bored on a ship.
As you do.
And so cute. Baby Yoda thinks that Kara is hurting Mando by beating him in this arm wrestling competition.
Okay, first of all, come on. Y'all ever been just bored and arm wrestling? You end up arm wrestling with someone? It happens.
No, we're gay men.
Yeah, I've never done that before.
Okay.
When we get bored, we drink mimosas and complain about people we know.
Right.
Mostly it was a thing when I was a kid. Like, it made me think back to being like in I don't know, freaking middle school or high school, and you're not allowed to have electronics, and you've just been sitting in this fucking room for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours for one reason or another, and there's nothing to do. They won't let you have cards, because that's how you might start gambling. So you just end up arm wrestling.
Oh, well, okay, that's fair.
Bradley, who do you think would win in an arm wrestle, you or me?
Well, since I actually go to the gym and work out, I'm going to say me.
I also work out, and the only reason I don't go to the gym is because I live in downtown Los Angeles. So I'm actually going to go with me.
It's not all about who's strongest.
Okay, well then I'm smarter, so I guess that means I win, right?
I have more useless Star Wars trivia.
My arm wrestling strategy is that I'm hypermobile, and so I just let people keep pushing my arm back like this until my wrist bends back and it doesn't do anything.
Oh, God.
This is a thing we're going to have to determine at some point. Once we get Bradley and I in the same room again, we're going to have to determine who would actually win in an arm wrestling match.
That is the most important thing.
That is the most important thing that we need to know. Between this and finding out who's closer to Jon Favreau and the 6 degrees of separation, apparently we have some science experiments to run.
Forward me the report once you run the...
So Baby Yoda starts choking out Kara. And I thought this was really interesting because it was like, he doesn't just like I don't know if it was the animation or the CG or whatever they did with it, but the way they made him choke her out, like, it looked really good. Like, it was almost like like baby Anakin or something. Like it was very like, like I'm gonna get like I don't know what it was. It was so cool.
I'd like to note here there is some controversy around the Force choke.
Yeah.
Because the Force choke, Legends media and games in particular had a nasty habit of conflating light side and dark side force powers, and I don't want to say conflating, maybe segmenting things into light side or dark side powers.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of uses of the Force aren't necessarily quote unquote light side or quote unquote dark side abilities. We see Luke in Return of the Jedi use the Force choke on the Gamorreans. Now, in the context of the film, it's supposed to set up the fact that Luke might turn to the dark side over the course of the movie. But the fact remains, he does use it. It's not specifically a dark side ability. Right. All it is just using the Force to constrict someone's throat.
It's just telekinesis.
Which is just telekinesis.
Right. Which everybody who's a Force user has for the most part. So I don't see that as like a dark side power. I think if you use it incorrectly, then yes, that is a dark side ability, I guess. But it's not there's no distinguishing feature between choking somebody and using telekinesis. So it's kind of like, it's how you use it.
The mind trick is way more fucked up than anything dark side power that I've seen. The mind trick is way more fucked up. In fact, in the High Republic, they have to call it like a mind touch to try to distance away from how kind of squicky the whole concept of the mind trick is.
Ooh, I don't like mind touch. That makes it worse for me.
Mind touch?
Yeah, I don't like
No.
They call it the mind touch.
I was so surprised after watching the episode for the first time and finding that there was this whole controversy over, is he like a bad Force user or a good Force user?
Right.
Because it's a child.
Yeah.
He doesn't know yet.
Right. He doesn't know anything.
If you do something kind of fucked up in front of a kid, they'll do it because monkey see, monkey do.
Right. It's like in front of a kid. They're not going to know what the word shit means. No. They're just going to drop it in front of grandma and no idea, why what they're saying is so bad.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me a lot, honestly, of my dog and the fact that, for one thing, she's so dumb. I love her, but she's so dumb. First of all, if you encourage a certain kind of behavior, it happens. I don't have children, obviously. This is why I'm using dogs as an example.
Right.
If you encourage it, if you don't somehow make it clear to a child or a small animal, this is a no-no and this is an okay thing. This kid has been around a lot of violence and seen a lot of violence happening. He doesn't know that this isn't something you're not supposed to do, and he's so small.
Right.
You work with what you're given.
No, I think he's learning, and I think that's right. He doesn't know right from wrong yet, to an extent. He is 50 years old, so he does kind of know right from wrong.
I mean, my dog is about 13, but she's not. She doesn't have the same.
That's true. We don't know the
going on as a 13-year-old child.
You're right. We don't know the development process of a 50-year-old alien, so we don't know how advanced his cognitive abilities are or what he's seen in his lifetime to distinguish right from wrong. So even though we don't. Never mind. I don't want to spoil anything from season 2, so we don't actually know anything about him right now.
We know nothing.
We know nothing.
Nothing at all.
So yeah, basically moving on, he needs a new crib. Quill's like, I can do that. What's the movie Holes?
I can fix that.
Like, I can fix that. I can do that. That's what I was getting from this scene.
I like the point he makes to Cara Dune. Like, I have skills, and maybe some of you haven't worked a day in your life, but
no, it's true.
Quill has such mom energy.
Yeah.
He has such mom energy. I love it. I'm very disappointed in all of you. It's fine. It's fine. No, leave it. I've got it.
I've got it.
I'll get the dishes. It's fine. Nobody helps me around here.
But so we get to Navarro, and we meet Grief Karga outside with his posse, and I noted that Grief Karga only owns one shirt, and now it has a bullet hole in it. So he's stuck with that shirt forever, obviously.
That's kind of a little, if you think about it, it's a little bit of a Chekhov's gun, maybe, that he doesn't have as much control over things as you might think he does.
Right.
What I liked was this scene essentially answered a question we had from the last episode. Aeron has not listened to it because at time of recording it is not yet out.
Oh, okay.
But I theorized in the last episode with Zero, the droid, that Zero knew that Mando was the Mandalorian from the Bounty Hunters Guild, but that Zero had not seen the child during the escape, and therefore did not know what the asset was in question. And that's why Zero is digging through the comm logs on the Razor Crest to try to figure out what the asset might have been that Mando skipped town with. This scene confirms that Grief Karga, up through that whole shootout and into this moment, did not get a good look at the child. Did not know what the child looked like.
Right.
So that answers that question that I had from the last episode, that no, nobody really saw the child during the escape. They don't necessarily know what the asset is. They only know that Mando skipped town with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, because he says something along the lines of like, let me get a good look at it. Like, and then he picks it up and he looks at the baby and he goes, oh, okay. Now I see why.
That's what all the fuss is about.
Okay, right.
Yeah, you're right. He is cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks at Baby Yoda and has the correct reaction.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
He also looks at the baby too, because he's like, huh. He's like, this is probably for somebody's like private collection. They want like some weird ass, like they collect weird ass animals, and like this is
like sugar gliders.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
this happens a lot. This happens a lot in the Star Wars universe. In Force Awakens, Han Solo is hauling Rathtars for King Prana. And then also in, once again, Light of the Jedi that I just read, they talk about a story where a transport took a rare giant fish to a planet for some noblewoman's private menagerie. And when the fish got sick because they didn't know how to take care of it, this particular noblewoman actually paid to fly the fish back to its home planet as opposed to simply letting it die. So this is which is apparently considered unusual. So this is just a thing in the Star Wars universe, that rich people have menageries and buy things for them all of the time.
Again, nothing that's ever happened in real life.
No, there's no historical precedent for this whatsoever.
Not at all.
So the only other thing I had for this scene was that Mando's crew is not walking. They are like, we are going to take the cows and we're going to ride the cows the whole way. You guys can walk, which is fine. You guys do you, but we're walking to town. We're not going to walk to town. We're going to take the cows.
You can get your steps in.
Right.
Frankly, you need to lose a little weight, but we're fine. We're going to stay on the blurgs.
Exactly.
I like that it literally makes them taller than Grief Karga's crew. It's such a power move. Like, being able to look down and be like, all right, we're here.
Yeah, we're here. This is the plan.
All right.
It's like walking in heels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To a certain extent, or, to lean into the Western theme, riding in on horseback.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it was. Yeah, they kind of rode into town. I mean, they're not in a town, but it's kind of the whole idea of that, like, the outsiders are riding into town on their horses, and then the people are confronting them at the edge of town kind of thing. So it's kind of one of the, like the sheriff is confronting the other guys, on horseback.
There is some Mexican standoff energy happening.
Right.
I noticed in this scene, like, people point out Cara Dune's arm tattoo. I didn't actually notice that she had a facial tattoo until y'all pointed it out.
Oh, interesting.
my eyesight is probably just not very good.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, I don't know if it's very clear in the show or not, but I think that she has two tattoos. She has her armband tattoo, and then she has her face tattoo, which is like a teardrop, but it's the Rebel insignia.
The Rebel Alliance.
So I don't think that the Rebel insignia one is the one that gives her away. I think that one's just kind of like that's like the fun tattoo. And then the one on her arm, though, is the one that denotes like, no, I am in the army. Like, this is something that like we have to get because it's like a symbol of our allegiance or some kind of whatever, you know.
Interesting that they would tattoo it onto her in a way that she can't remove.
Right.
So I have a thought about that. Military dudes just liking tattoos of shit about their
stuff.
their unit, or
right.
like the insignias and such like that. It's a thing. My way of kind of rationalizing why would she put it on her face where it's hard to cover up, and she doesn't cover it up. She was an infiltrator, and she was infantry for one thing. She was doing ground combat. You know that saying, fire when you see the whites of their eyes?
Yes. From Bunker Hill.
From life.
From a lot of things. But I remember it as being from Bunker Hill, the Battle of Bunker Hill during the American Revolution when they were conserving ammo.
Fair point. I think she doesn't feel the need to cover that up, because if somebody's going to be an issue, like, they'd have to get close enough to actually see it, and she don't let people that close.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I guess that is a good point, because like you're right. If she's not gonna be like talking to somebody to the point where she's gonna be like, hey, how's it going? Like, here's my my whole deal. She's gonna be very kind of in the shadows kind of thing anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's how she's introduced.
Right.
Yeah,
she's off to the side at the bar. She's kind of just staring, and and like no one knows until he gets up close and personal and he realizes. So
Strider in a Fellowship of the Ring style. They're in the corner of the bar, mysterious. But yeah, that was all I had to say about the tattoos. I just had.
Gotcha.
That was my theory.
No, that's good.
More thought than I think maybe the showrunners put into it. But
well, then they go and she does cover it up. So
the arm tattoo, yeah.
Right. So because she has to, because that's what Grief says. He's like, they're gonna know who she is the second they see her tattoo. So he's like, just at least cover up your body. Telling a woman what to do, obviously.
Yeah, I'm fine with covering up those biceps so I don't have the distraction. It's best for everybody involved.
Well, after he tells a woman to cover her body, they move on to having s'mores by the campfire in the next scene.
I've noted here that this reminds me of the campfire scene from Solo, but like a darker version.
Yeah.
Literally, it is super dark, and
you can't see anything.
Can't see anything in this scene.
I love that Quill is feeding the baby just meat. He's just like, here. He's like feeding it like a cat or something. Like, he's kind of like, here you go. Here's a little piece of this. Here's a little piece of this. He's like, he'll eat anything.
Me with my dog.
Right.
Like, here you go.
Here you go. You can have a little bit. You want a little bit more? Okay. You're a good boy. Like, that's what he was doing the whole time. It was just hilarious.
You want an orange? You want some orange?
Right.
You get some more.
Okay, you get some.
Yeah. Oh, you're so cute. You can have some more of my food. Yes, you can.
And then I also like how this scene leans heavily into the trope of like, so Grief says, while they're talking about, everything, he basically just says, oh, nothing can go wrong.
Oh, I love that.
Is immediately followed by they get attacked by Drogon. Like,
Carl Weathers walks us into that, like a soothing hot tub being blasted by a fire hose.
Nothing can go wrong.
Just like he's reassuring them, like, it's fine, it's all gonna be fine, it's good, don't worry about it, nothing can go wrong. Boom.
And then he gets attacked by Drogon from Game of Thrones. And I
thought, Minox.
Right. I thought that was weird. I was like, what? How much fucking wildlife is on this goddamn planet? It's a lava planet. Like, and it's got all these different things. We just saw they're eating a goat that they just saw. and then now they're being attacked by these giant dragon bat things. Like, what the hell?
So I live next to a volcano.
Yes.
Random facts.
So you also have dragons.
We don't have dragons, but we got eagles and shit. We probably had some kind of big flying thing back in the day. No, but plenty of things live near volcanoes, especially goats. They can climb them in mountains and shit.
I thought this was
they crave that mineral.
Right. They crave that mineral.
They crave that mineral, referencing an ancient meme that I just dated myself here.
I didn't want to go too heavy onto the dragons or whatever they are, but shocking, the design of the dragon is based on a Ralph McQuarrie, blah, 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 blah. They just love taking these like old...
They love Ralph McQuarrie.
They love taking his stuff and just making it canon. Like,
I just thought it looked like a pterodactyl.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was.
Okay, good. Then I'm on the right track. I don't know who that
is. One bounty hunter does get killed, which, sucks for you, buddy. You should have had a name.
Yeah, well.
But most notably, and Bradley knew I was going to bring this up.
How did I know you were going to bring this up?
He's rolling his eyes right now because he knows I'm going to bring it up.
Literally my next note.
The flamethrower does something.
Yes. I don't know if it does something. I don't know if it just scares them away.
It scares them off, which is technically doing something and not fucking up. This is
okay. I'll give it a point for working.
This is the fourth, I think, instance of the flamethrower not being useless. Third or fourth instance of it not being completely useless. Gotcha. So we can add dragons to the list of things the flamethrower works against.
Cool.
We have stormtroopers, bounty hunters, droids, and dragons.
He uses it the way you'd use something like, I don't know, bear mace or a fire hose or something like that. Just to like put some distance between you and the thing. Like it might not kill it, but it feels bad, so you back away.
Right.
And like it's clearly evidenced from the fact that the fire is going out as the thing flies away, that it's mostly just scared and a little bit injured by it. That, he didn't take out the thing with the flamethrower.
No, that's too much work for your supper.
Right. Mm. Well, they did do a lot of work for their supper because they ate 2 fucking cows. Or they took 2 cows during this whole sequence. They needed. Yeah, they were like, okay, we got our food.
Which, again, poor Quill.
Right. He's losing his children.
He has made a loss on this investment. Yeah.
This is a bad investment, buddy. This was not smart.
He thought he made out in like the second or what was it, the 5th or 6th episode. He was like, or the 2nd or 3rd episode, he was like, I got 3 of these cows. I got 2 of these cows, whatever. And now he's got 1 left. And it's like, oh, that poor guy.
With his inventory, like, all right, I have an invoice prepared for losses sustained for damages.
Right. He's going to call HR and be like, hey, you guys need to replace my cars. So then this next part is interesting. So these dragons or whatever they were also have poison somehow in their claws or teeth or something because Grief's arm gets all fucked up. And I thought about that. And Kara's like, somehow Kara's also a medic.
She just has the med pack with her.
I actually think that would make perfect sense for someone who's ex-military.
Just has like military, like just medical some kind of training or triage.
Not necessarily triage, but kind of everybody gets that sort of like, here's how you dress something on the battlefield to stabilize it.
To stabilize. Got it.
Out of there.
Gotcha.
And notably, none of these bounty hunters know what the fuck to do.
Right. They're all
Nobody brought a goddamn med pack.
Right. They're all like, okay, we'll just let him die. I love that Grief go like when the child comes up to him. He goes, he's trying to eat me.
That's so funny.
I was like, what? Where did you get that from? That was the most random line in this whole entire thing.
The poison's a neurotoxin, maybe, and it's making him a little...
I think so. It has to be, because it's just really funny.
But
tend to be neurotoxins.
the child is not trying to eat him.
What is he trying to do to him?
No.
Child extends a hand out and heals Grief Karga's wound
Right.
in a very similar way to a movie that came out right around the same time as this.
So I have a question about this. I don't know the exact timing, but the dates, how do they align? So Rise of Skywalker, did it come out before this episode came out?
I believe that Rise of Skywalker came
just
out just before this episode came out.
Right.
Let me double check this.
Okay. Because I was noting that this is very similar to the scene where Rey heals the snake or whatever in that movie, and which is a very interesting Jedi power that we haven't technically seen.
I am wrong. This episode, The Reckoning, premiered on December the 18th, 2019, and Rise of Skywalker was released in the United States on December 20th.
Interesting.
So this episode came out 2 days before Rise of Skywalker did.
Really quickly establishing this is a thing in universe that can happen, and all right, let's put it on the big screen.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too, because in this scene, if we just take it at face value, we know that now the child has healing abilities, right? It's a force power that he just happens to have. In the movie, Rey having healing abilities is part of the whole fact that she's this dyad in the force or whatever it's called.
No, not necessarily, because in the film, she explains what she's doing and how she's doing it, where she's studying the Jedi texts and she got it from there, or she got it from Leia, but she's transferring some of her life essence into the snake thing.
Right.
And so this is something that clearly Baby Yoda can do just innately. She had to learn how to do it,
right?
But he's a child. He doesn't have the necessary learning. He acts almost entirely on impulse.
Okay.
So he's just going in. He doesn't even realize what he's doing. He just sees, heal, I want to heal it, and then he does. And he doesn't.
He can choke you out. He can fix you.
Right.
Porque no los dos.
He's a Swiss Army knife of babies.
He's got all the force powers. So does that mean we're going to see at some point lightning coming out of Baby Yoda?
I hope so.
Please. Please, that sounds so cool.
Do you think, I don't know, do you think that would ruin it?
No.
No.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
Don't
get me wrong, I love lightning powers. I feel like it was underused in Rise of Skywalker, because it is a poignant scene in Rise of Skywalker where we get to see the lightning powers. But it's only ever used there, really. And then
Palpatine takes down a whole fleet.
No, I'm talking about with Rey.
Oh, with Rey. Yeah, where she uses
it. Once we find out that she has that ability, she never uses it again. So it's kind of in a traditional sense, she never uses it again.
It's a lot like Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender trying out firebending for the first time and accidentally injuring someone, be like, oh shit.
And never using it, right?
I would like to not
or being afraid of using it.
Rey does think she accidentally killed Chewbacca.
Right.
Yeah.
Using her
I will say when
powers.
I watched that movie, I did audibly gasp when she did that. Because I did also believe that for a slight second. I did believe that.
Same. That's why it's in there. Same.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Now, obviously, since I've seen the movie, I know that that's not what happened. But it does. I feel like they do a good job in that movie of tricking you into thinking that that's what happened, because you don't know there's a second transport.
Yeah.
You do if you're paying very close attention.
Yeah, but no one's.
You have to actually watch the movie.
Some of us have bad eyesight.
Right.
If you watch the movie, now I didn't notice it on my first viewing. I thought it came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I watched it a second time, because I've seen it more than once, I saw it and I went, "Oh, there are two transports."
Gotcha. So it's justified. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
I'm
They
like,
did show
"Oh,
us.
there it is.
Gotcha.
There it is. They did show us the thing."
Yeah. And of course, who among us hasn't, gotten angry and accidentally destroyed something without realizing it? It's relatable.
Who among us hasn't accidentally zapped things with lightning when we got really pissed off? That might just be me.
Well, hopefully we'll see it. I mean, I think it's possible. I would like to see it just because I think I would like to see Baby Yoda do more stuff. I mean, so we'll see if he ever does anything moving forward after this episode, but we'll see.
It does tucker him out. He had to sit down real hard after.
He is a baby after all, so.
This was the other thing besides the growing things in test tubes that I felt like the showrunners, Jon Favreau and his writing team on The Mandalorian, talking with Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams and going, "Oh, you're going to do force healing in Rise of Skywalker. We have a great way to use force healing in The Mandalorian."
Right.
And do some brand integration here of establishing that this is a thing that the Jedi can in fact do.
I think maybe you guys, that the reason I know this is because you guys pointed it out. I didn't know that Greef Karga was supposed to die.
Yes. So in the first episode that he appears in, yes, he was supposed to die. So it's very interesting that they keep putting him in these perilous situations and he keeps getting like hurt or like almost dying and then like not dying. I do find that kind of interesting that they keep doing this whole like, oh, he's going to die now. Nope, just kidding.
He's on a journey.
Yeah.
He's going on a journey ethically.
Yes, he is. Well, and clearly this does do something to his psyche because as we're walking in the next scene, he randomly just turns around and shoots his own men, and they're shocked that he's kind of, quote unquote, turned to their side.
It's a betrayal of a betrayal.
Right. It's a double cross.
It's so quintessentially Western.
Right.
Yes, it really is. It really is. I was thinking that the whole time watching it, like, yeah, this was in the Fistful of Dollars series. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this is standard. All right.
Standard Western trope of killing your own men, double cross.
We heard you like betrayals, so we put a betrayal in your betrayal.
Right. I like how he has to go and explain like the betrayal of the betrayal. So he has to go like, he's like, no. I'm betraying them because I was going to betray you, but now I'm not going to betray you because I realized that after the baby just made me not die, that we can solve each other's problems another way, and I'll be on your side.
And they do lead into it with having second thoughts, maybe.
Right.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Just not the ones you think he's having.
Right. Exactly.
Different ones.
Two fun things in this scene that were not probably intentional references, but I thought were fun.
Yes.
Cara Dune does say it's a trap.
I did write that down because it was so funny when she said that.
And
it's a trap.
The cuffs that are first seen in Return of the Jedi, but have popped up several times in Star Wars media, do pop up here.
Gotcha.
The binder cuffs that are actually, no, I'm wrong. They first showed up in A New Hope.
Right. Well, that's why
them on Chewbacca.
Well, when you say that, see, I didn't even think of that as a reference because again, we get to the whole thing. Is it a reference or part of the universe, right?
It's just part of the universe. But right. I saw them and I went, specifically the ones from Return of the Jedi that they put on Luke. I went, oh, it's the same binder cuffs that they put on him.
In universe, are those just like the cheap handcuffs that are available?
I guess so.
Yeah, pretty much.
Checks out.
Right. So once they finally quote formulated a plan, they get to
plan.
Right. Quote.
They get to plan. Marks.
They get to town.
Take me prisoner. Just do it.
Right. Well, they're like, we're gonna do the prisoner gag. It'll work perfectly.
It has always worked perfectly.
So they hatch their little plan, and then they head out, and so they separate. So we got Greef and Cara and Mando going into town with a pretend Baby Yoda, and then you got Quill on his cow taken Baby Yoda back to the ship. So basically, they walked halfway, and Quill's like, "Okay, I'll go back to the ship now."
They send him back.
Right.
Amanda's like, "Go back," and I'm like, "No, I don't think you should go alone."
Don't go alone. Right. Exactly. But they come up to town and they see the cops chilling on their bikes at the front of the town.
I didn't make the connection that these were the quote-unquote scout troopers that we will see in the next episode. Until rewatching it for this, I went, oh, these are the random scout troopers that are going to be in one of the best scenes in the show.
Well, one of them is. I guess it's implied that they both are because only one of them talks. But
only one talks, yeah.
So I think the other one is just an extra. But this guy, so the main one is played by an actor named Adam Pally, who you may know or may not know from a series called Happy Endings. And that was just what I knew him from, but he's been in a ton of other things. He was recently in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. He's just a comedian kind of actor. He's just a funny guy. But I just know him from that. Yeah, if you want to look him up, his name is Adam Pally. If you look him up, you'll be like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, I gotta know.
I think he was also in the Mindy Project. He was really funny in that too.
They cast a lot of comedians in this.
I know who that is. Okay, yeah, he was that one doctor on the Mindy Project. Okay.
Yeah, see, you'd recognize him if you saw him. You just might not know his name. So, yeah, but that's the random scout trooper played by him. This scene, he is in the next episode, but he's not the feature one in the next episode. That's a different person we'll get to whenever we get to that. But
because he was in a movie that I really like, that I really want to plug.
Gotcha. Okay,
but we'll get there when we get there.
Right. So they kind of have a little conversation with this scout trooper guy, and then they move on to the rest of the town, which is covered with stormtroopers.
You said 4.
Right. They're like, oh, this is not 4.
I think you may have misled us slightly on this.
Which, of course, I mean, we know that this guy is some kind of higher up and whatnot, and
yeah.
Of course he's going to travel with this many people. Of course he is.
Exactly. Yeah, because once we...
he only brings one fire team. No.
I mean, because like he said, he's like the client has 4 surrounding him. So I guess when they get to him, they're like, look, see, I said there's only 4 in the room. You know, it's fine. Which then in the second they get there, 2 more walk in or something.
Yeah, the thing about fire teams as they're used in, like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a specific title within universe, but I know that in real life fire teams work best when you have a bunch of them,
right?
And they all coordinate with each other. That's kind of how I work. So yeah, it makes sense that there's all these dudes here.
And I love that with them. I love that Werner Herzog is just like this super fancy talker. Like
the libation line that can I offer you a libation to celebrate the conclusion of our shared narrative is one of the greatest lines I've ever heard in my entire life. It is beautiful.
It's so good. The only thing better than an evil Brit is a Brit playing an evil German, and the only thing better than that is this. I get such Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter vibes from him in this scene.
Yes.
Can they offer you a libation to celebrate the close of our shared narrative? Perhaps a nice Chianti.
Yeah, it's almost like this. It's almost like exactly what he said, and he even has his own little personal what is it, bartender, which is like also a Imperial droid, right, from the movie. It's like it's a similar model,
and from Rebels,
right? Which, by the way, that what kind of droid is that? It's just like it's the evil version of C-3PO, right?
Yeah, it's the Empire's version of like a protocol droid. Although they do have them. They do have like black and silver protocol droids, but those droids were mainly for like maintenance and like logistics and things like that.
Gotcha. So it's funny that it's a bartender now, whereas the only time we know, at least character-wise, we know of one it's like a statistician or something. Like it
statistician or
statistician, right?
It's like a logistics coordinator,
Right, and now it's
Rebels.
bartending.
Stuff can do two things.
Right. I just find it interesting.
You can reprogram a droid to do whatever you want.
Clearly, you can. I love that they do the whole thing where he's like, "Let me see the child," and he's like, "No, he's sleeping." So but he's like, "But just let me look at it," and he's like, "No, we can't." He's like, "Oh, well, lucky for you, I have to take a phone call, so I'm not going to look." Like, you would still look.
Before they do that, Werner Herzog gives a gross oversimplification of the rebellion on Mandalore. But also, remember, we were talking before, I mentioned, this is how the First Order rose. And it rose in prominence by promising systems and promising groups of people order and security. Werner Herzog, they've said that this show is going to explore the origins of the First Order. Part of that is Werner Herzog, what he says in this episode, which he says, look around you. Has life actually gotten any better since the revolution? Because I don't see that. I only see death and chaos.
Gotcha.
So specifically, he says, is the world outside more peaceful since the revolution? And all I could think when he says that is, well, your fellows are the ones outside, so...
Right.
But yeah, this was a justification used in the lead up to World War II in the United States. In the United States, there were mostly like politicians, big businessmen, such like that, looking at the just chaos during the Great Depression and going, this is a mess. We need a dictator. That is just really well played, well done scene right there. Just he believes this. He believes this. You can tell.
Yeah, Charles, I think this feeds into your whole theory that the better story of what the New Republic is that they have to do the same exact things that the Empire did to kind of keep everything stable, and that would have been a better storyline. That the good guys turn into the bad guys, not the good guys are still the good guys, and then just new bad guys come.
Yeah, and they may be going that direction to an extent with the intervening stuff, showing why the New Republic was so toothless and how that affected the galaxy. I've mentioned before that, like, I feel like the sequels will get less of a bad rap once people like Dave Filoni are able to come in and fill in the gaps the way that Clone Wars kind of retroactively made the prequels a little more understandable in the context of the broader narrative. So I think we're starting to see that, with the New Republic, that the idea of going back to the way it was, but also trying to prevent the Empire from rising again, just led to the Empire rising again. And we're going to see in a little more detail beyond just the Aftermath books and the tie-ins while the movies were coming out, how and why, particularly for people who don't know how to read, which I'm sure,
right.
Sucks for those people because they missed out on the gay alcoholic Imperial ex-torturer from the Aftermath books, but whatever, they can live in their dark, sad little lives.
Non-canon. So, Grief has to take a phone call.
Not Grief.
I'm sorry. The client has to take a phone call before they celebrate, which I thought was so funny. He was just like, lucky for you, I have to take a phone call. Like, okay, great.
Creepily stroked your armor.
Right.
I've given you my weird manifesto.
Yeah, it's a really he's such a good villain.
Show me the baby. Oh, I have to take a phone call.
Right.
In fairness, when we see who it is that he is taking the phone call from, it becomes immediately obvious why he needs to take this call.
Right.
I gotta talk to my boss real quick.
Right, exactly. And which is we know that he did have a higher power that he answered to. We just didn't know who it was yet. So now we finally get to meet, I don't want to say the big bad of the season, but the boss the real boss of the whole situation, the real villain, the whole behind everything.
It's not Palpatine.
Like, thank God.
Surprisingly.
No, it
Such
is.
an entrance.
Yeah, it's interesting too that this is the first appearance of this character is a hologram and not them physically.
I forgot that they actually showed the hologram of him on screen.
Yeah.
I was under, in my memory, he first shows up later on.
Right.
But we do see him via hologram. Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes, we know him from lots of things.
A lot.
Funny enough, I know. I mean, well, most people would know him probably from Breaking Bad. He was also in Westworld. He was also in one of my favorite movies, Last Holiday with Queen Latifah. Randomly, he's in that movie.
Most recently, he's in The Boys, playing a very similar role.
I didn't even write that down. There were so many things that I was picking from him. Like, so yes, he's in The Boys. He's in the new Harley Quinn show. He does the voice of Lex Luthor in the new Harley Quinn show, which if you haven't seen is hilarious.
He's in like the new, I think it's Far Cry game that's going to come out where he plays like a dictator.
Interesting.
Clearly this man has a role that he's very good at and enjoys playing.
Right.
And people keep casting him to play this role, and he's just so good at it.
How did Alan Rickman put it? I don't play bad guys. I play very interesting characters.
Yeah,
I think it was
true.
Christopher Lee who said, I don't play villains, I play people.
Yeah, well, he plays a lot of people because he's in almost everything. But funny enough, he almost meets our Disney trifecta. And funny enough, both of the two things that he is in are both Jon Favreau projects, which I also did not know until just now.
Oh, what else was he in?
So for his Star Wars thing, he was in this, right? Mm-hmm. For his Disney thing, he was in The Jungle Book, the new one that Jon Favreau helped with. So Jon Favreau obviously did
helped with.
Right.
You know, he assisted with this production in some small
kind of way. Which is why they gave him the Lion King. But so he did The Jungle Book. I didn't write down what voice he did in The Jungle Book, but he was a voice in The Jungle Book. I believe it's one of the wolves in Mowgli's family or something. But so he's in that for Disney. So he's in The Jungle Book for Disney. He's in The Mandalorian for Star Wars. Now we just need to get him in the Marvel thing, and then he meets the same trifecta that Ming-Na Wen meets. So
close.
Yeah.
So close. just cast him in something. Make him the villain of, I don't know, one of the new shows or something, or get him in a movie for like 5 minutes being a smug corporate jerk.
I was going to say, side note, he technically was already in a Disney thing before The Jungle Book. He was in Once Upon a Time. And he plays the mirror in the magic mirror.
That's not a real show.
It is technically
that didn't happen.
And guess what? The show was also made by the guys who did Lost. So there's the J.J. Abrams connection because it's Bad Robot.
Everything's connected.
Because Bad Robot made Once Upon a Time. So
Moff Gideon rolls in like the party does not start until I walk in.
Exactly. Because he actually, what's funny is he's like, do you have the asset? And then the client goes, no. He's like, yeah, of course I do. He's like, did you check? And he's like, no, I didn't check, but I will. And he's like, oh, okay, that's all I needed to hear. And proceeds to murder his own people. Like,
with Death Troopers.
Which is interesting.
From Rogue One and the final season of Star Wars Rebels.
Well, not only the fact that I like how you said that, Rogue One, because these are actually the exact same costumes from the Rogue One set, because they flew them in from wherever they were in storage and they used them on this set.
The big warehouse, I'm sure Disney keeps all of their costumes in. I have been actually to a costume exhibition for Star Wars, and some of these are pretty impressive in person, and
Yeah.
also a lot like smaller. Some of them are a lot smaller than I thought they'd be, and some of
Mhm.
them are a lot bigger than I thought they'd be. And Darth Vader is terrifying in person.
One of the museums up here in Seattle did have a wonderful Star Wars costuming exhibition, and they're just glorious and beautiful to look at. All
That's
of
the
them.
one I think I went. I went to it in St. Petersburg, uh,
Um,
in Florida. But we got the Death Troopers, which is for Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels. We've got the Troop Transport,
Yep.
which is a reference in Rebels. It was a reference to another toy,
Right.
just like the robot from the last episode. And the new TIE Fighter is a reference to some unused concept art for, I believe it was The Force Awakens,
Right.
that it
Which is
folds down. So we've got just bam, 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 all
bam,
these
bam, bam.
references to other things that you wouldn't get. Like they're not blatantly obvious, but it's just like a string of references to
Right.
stuff all in a row.
It's kind
or
of fun.
merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
Right. And actually, what's funny enough is, so like I said, the Death Trooper costumes are reused from Rogue One. Funny little fact here is that they didn't have enough extras to play all the stormtroopers, so they got the 501st guys to come in and play all the extras with all the other stormtroopers. So now it's funny because Dave Filoni said that now the 501st guys can say that their costumes are actually props, official Star Wars props from the set, because they were on set and their costumes now technically count as props. So
I wonder if the hot what the one guy that we follow on Instagram now was in it. Probably not, because he mostly does Mandalorians.
yeah, no, I don't think he's in the
Yes,
501st. Yeah, I don't think he's in the 501st.
Now, the 501st is very cool. I did mention it
Yeah.
way back in either our pilot episode or our Mando episode 0. That is a very cool organization. I've
Right.
gotten to, if you ever get to see some of their costumes like in person,
Yeah.
they work really hard to make them look really good.
So we get all that. Quill is still moving along on the cow. They keep kind of intercutting. And now the bike troopers are headed after him, which I thought was like, oh no. Kind of, I got this like pit in my stomach was like, uh-oh. This does not look good. Because they're slowly catching up to him. And I thought about like this Moff Gideon character. He does this little like monologuing, but he's doing it in a way that he already knows what's happening.
He's doing it for the drama.
Right. And I think it is because he is dramatic. He's got the cape.
Yeah.
So
You gotta have the cape.
we already know he's dramatic because he has got the cape. He's got a folding TIE fighter, so that's dramatic. His entrance alone was dramatic because he kind of like flies in and then the wings fold and then he's just like coming out of the top and he's like, you have no idea what you're up against. Like, you know.
It's a very Star Wars entrance for one. Coming in on the ship and then coming out of the ship. And even making stepping up and out of the TIE fighter look menacing.
Right.
But it's also kind of this Western sort of, the bad guy rolls into town and steps out of his carriage, and immediately, you know, the contrast between him and the area around him is visually apparent.
You're just waiting for the ooh kind of music to come in the background.
Right.
Your bad guy rolls into town. It's like, all right, there ain't room in this town for both of us.
Right.
There's no room. There ain't room for you and me and the 50 stormtroopers I brought with me.
Or this baby.
Yeah, and it's like very overkill too, because he's like, he doesn't need that many guys, but he has them. And then again, another trope is that, you know, you have the heroes pinned down behind the bar, I guess technically.
It's a shootout.
It's just a shootout. Yeah.
It's the OK Corral Tombstone style shootout. At least the media portrayed version of how that went down.
And I mean, unless I missed it, we have Mando, yelling on the comm. He's like, "Hey, Quill, did you get to the ship on time? Did you get the baby?" He's not answering, and then they just kind of cut to the talk. What is it? The communicator is on the ground by itself.
Comlink.
Comlink is on the ground by itself, and then we see a smoking corpse of Quill lying on the ground, and the bike trooper, or no, we saw the baby. I'm sorry. We saw the child just laying on the ground by himself. The bike trooper swooping up and just kind of grabbing him. And I was like, that's so sad.
If I understand it correctly, my impression too was that they intercepted their communication.
Yep.
And
yeah,
because they start moving when they hear Mando like, "All right, get out of there," and they're like, "All right, we know where we're supposed to go."
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that. I'm interesting that you caught that. Okay, that makes more sense.
I watched it like just the other day, so
I watched it today, and I still didn't even get that.
I watched it like 4 or 5 hours ago, and I did get it.
Okay, well, you're all smarter than me. So yeah,
yes, we know.
So Quill
is read. We can see.
So Quill is dead. Sad day. How did you guys feel about that? I was really sad because I did start to think like, okay, if they heavily marketed this guy on all the merchandising, all the toys, everything, this Quill character, I'm like, he's got to be part of the main crew. Like, he is going to stick around for at least 2 seasons, because it's just part of the thing.
I thought it was a very brave choice on their part.
Yeah.
But looking at like the trajectory, he kind of, the way they presented him, he didn't really have a lot of places to go as a character. He had kind of finished his journey before the story started.
Right.
And, I thought it was bold of them to kill him off. Obviously he was such a heavily merchandised character and there was a lot of potential there. But in story, which is what they really seem to care about with this show, is telling a good story. Within the story, when he was introduced, he had already kind of gone through his arc. And this was his sort of last job coming out of retirement sort of thing. Gotcha. It made me sad when I saw it.
Well, that makes this worse because then he dies before he gets to retire.
So you know how I said Quill had mom energy?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the dead mom trope.
Oh, God.
This is all right, we've killed what you love.
Right.
If you're not careful, I'm about to start belting out Broadway musicals here.
I mean, you do you.
I will when we finish recording later on tonight.
I support you in this.
Right.
I support you
alone in my apartment, like God intended.
I'm actually not. I mean, I'm kind of surprised, but not surprised that they kind of cut to the directed by right after this. So we just see the smoking body, and then it just kind of like the episode just ends. Like they don't resolve anything, which is I don't know if that. Yeah, it is a cliffhanger, but at the same time, like we were saying before, the episode needs to have a complete, kind of self-contained ending, and I don't know if it does.
Not necessarily.
I wish they had called it part 1 and part 2.
That's what I mean.
It would have been a lot easier just to accept it.
Yeah.
As a part 1 and part 2, because the Mandalorian, it can't seem to make up its mind whether or not it wants to be serial or whether it wants to be episodic.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not sure, because then you get episodes like this one, which is clearly just set up for episode 8.
It's a Western. A lot of when serial Westerns were being aired back in like the 30s and 40s and 50s, that's where we not just Westerns. I mean, these were the same studios that gave us stuff like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, but cliffhangers were the thing that you ended on so people came back all the time. And so it just felt very like yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense that you would do this, that you would pull that out.
I think what we're just trying to say is that like normally in this situation, you would have said like, okay, clearly this is part 1. not this is its own episode, because they're billing it as its own episode when it in fact it is just a part 1 to a part 2. So I don't know if that was just correct in the terms of like the naming conventions, and just the way episodes are supposed to work in terms of just how TV is structured. You know what I mean? Like
this show has a name problem, though.
Yeah.
What is the name of the episode after this?
The Redemption.
So
nope, just Redemption.
Because that's right.
Bradley got upset about it last week.
It's called Redemption.
So this one's called Reckoning.
Right.
I think that
The Reckoning.
The Reckoning. Like the definition that you gave at the beginning, like, yeah, this feels like this is what this was about. That these are your consequences.
If they had dwelled a little bit more on the relationship between Grief Karga and Mando following the events of episode 3, it would have worked a little better to end it on a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
That I felt, and I talked about this way back at the beginning when I talked about my dislike. I said I felt a lot of the character interaction and growth was sacrificed in the name of setting up episode 8. That they should have taken a little bit more time to let Grief and Mando interact with each other, as opposed to, just basically setting up all the puzzle pieces where we need to be for the final episode.
So, is there anything else in this episode you guys want to talk about other than the fact that it was directed by Deborah Chow again?
So, Cara Dune's hair.
That's a segue.
I was going to say, how does that have anything to do with Deborah Chow? But that's okay. Moving on. What about Cara's hair did you notice?
So, watching the show the whole time, it took me a while to realize that her hair isn't like a buzz cut of some kind. Because again, my eyes not good.
It's just
it's braided. It's braided along through there.
Oh, okay.
I guess they suggested to her. They wanted to do the buzz cut on one side, the undercut.
Gotcha.
And they didn't. And so the hairstyle, a couple of the guys, I don't know the names of the people who run this. And I only remember Deborah because they were watching her on set directing, and the hairstyle that she had her hair braided back out of her eyes and such like that. And they were watching her run around getting stuff done. And they were like, that's really cool looking.
Yeah.
And so Cara Dune's hairstyle is partially they based it off of just how she does her hair.
Oh, okay.
Aaron came in armed with the trivia.
I was going to say, because I'm glad, like you said, I did also think that it was kind of like a shaved side thing, which I don't actually like. So I like that they did this instead, because I think that that's a little too, I guess, predictable of a hairstyle, I guess, if you want to give it something.
I think it was that Jon Favreau thought that would be neat, but the actress wanted the character to have more of a feminine kind of style. Yeah, no,
I love the choice. I think it actually works really well.
It looks so good.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's futuristic enough to be like, oh, that's a Star Wars look. Like, I believe that. Like, I would believe that that's like, whatever. But it's also a practical thing for the actress, because obviously the actress doesn't have to shave her head.
And I love that it's based off of someone in real life just going like, all right, I have to get my hair on my face and braid it back.
Yes.
Like on this Zoom call, you can't necessarily see, but I have a fair amount of hair.
Right. It's a practical use versus just for the sake of giving her an interesting hairstyle. Like, it's like, no, she needs it out of her face because she uses guns all the time and she gotta, shoot stuff and whatever.
Looks good. It looks good.
Well, Aeron, thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything you want to plug?
I have a Twitter. Sometimes I post pictures of jewelry that I work on, but mostly I just post pictures of my dog, or we see dogs, or complain about the health insurance industry. So if you want to hear that,
the Twitter, by the way, because I have it up in front of me, is at A as in Alpha, E as in Echo, R O as in Oscar, L L O C O.
Aeroloco.
Gotcha. I'll put it in the episode.
It'll be in the description.
Right, there we go. And we don't have to worry about that.
My name is not spellable by anyone. I've branded accordingly.
Gotcha.
thank you for having me. Can't believe I signed on to willingly have Star Wars mansplained to me. It's fine.
I mean, basically, yes, that's what we do.
At least that was what I was expecting. This actually went.
Gotcha.
I was about to say, I think you
great.
did more
I was going to say, you did some explaining to us. Yeah, so.
Inevitably, everybody listening will be like,
no, I loved it.
She needs to. Okay,
No.
Good.
No, I loved it.
You can, as far as plugging ourselves, you can follow the continued gay-splaining of Star Wars on our Twitter account at Goldsquadrongays. You can follow us on Instagram at Goldsquadrongays. And Bradley and I will be back next week to finish out Season 1 of The Mandalorian with Episode 8, and then the week after for our whole season retrospective, and then we'll be done.
We're done.
I'm so excited to find out how it ends.
Oh my god, I know. It's such a cliffhanger.
I know. Such a cliffhanger we're ending on this week.
Quill's gonna be fine, right? He's gonna get up.
Be fine.
Maybe, we'll see.
Aeron, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for asking me on.
And we will be signing out from here until next week.
Bye.
My head is filled with random Star Wars trivia, every shirtless image of Henry Cavill, and smug one-liners.
You might have to make some
great.
space in there for some other things.
That's pretty much all I need.